Friends, welcome. This is Thomas Magisha, a medical clinic officer, a clinical philosopher, and a clinical gerontologist in potency. I'm discussing philosophy, so I'll bring in issues of potency and actuality, and we shall discuss much about that under Aristotle, the philosopher. Now, at this moment, in the part one, this is part two of my thoughts and my presentation about the periods of philosophy. In part one, we have spoken much. I don't have to go back, and I know you will watch it. But in this part two, we had reached at Plato, a student of Socrates. Oh, some people say Socrates. I don't know how we wish you to best mention it. But Plato, he speaks to us many things. Number one, the theory of forms, and I've mentioned about in part one. Now, number two is the impermanence or the imperfection of the physical world. In that he says that we are just mere shadows. We are shadows of that true reality which is in the world of forms. And he speaks about, in this impermanence of the physical world, things come and cease to be. The contingent world is this world we are in. But he says there is that world which is eternal, and it's in the world of forms. And he speaks about the allegory of the cave. I don't delve much into this, but in this he speaks about enlightenment that people perceive. He's trying to say that we are locked into a cave at some point, and when we jump out of the cave, we are able to see the true truthfulness of things, the reality of things. And he says sometimes it is bitter when your colleagues tell them the truthfulness of things. Sometimes they might, some people die because of telling the truth. Jesus could be the example of those that died because of the truth. Truth is usually bitter, and sometimes you can go because of the truth. But don't fear about the truth, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, let me move the goggles and we speak much about these philosophical notions. Now, when you read the Plato's Republic, you see notions of justice, you see notions of the ideal world. Actually, Plato speaks about the ideal world, the world in which there is total freedom, everything is in its imperfection. I don't know whether that world is on our planet Earth, but I think our friend Bobby Wine, the upcoming president of Uganda, he usually speaks to Nayambare, where we shall put on the crowns just because we are heading to that ideal world where we shall not need the police because everyone is working within the perfectionness. That world, my friend, I don't know if I shall gain it. Now, friends, from Plato we see a man called Aristotle. Aristotle has a lot to teach us. But importantly, we can see Aristotle in his great works, the Nicomachean Ethics. He has works about the De Anima, where he speaks about the soul. And there are a lot of works in his metaphysics, he speaks a lot. But what is special about about Aristotle, is that Aristotle disagreed from his teacher, Socrates. Plato. While Plato sees reality in the world of forms to be perfect, for Aristotle says the truth is in things themselves. What do I mean? If you want to know about angels, please go to an angel. If you want to know about religious life, don't go to a pagan. Go to a religious leader. If you want to know about medicine, surely, are you right to go to, somebody who's practically practicing witchcraft to tell you about modern medicine? You want to know about my village Chezimbele, please, you come to me and I will tell you about Chezimbele. Don't go about somebody who has just toward Chezimbele in a single day and you expect him to tell you. No. Truth is in things themselves. And I should say, this is something, a thought that I evoked when I was in my philosophy studies in Ginger. I said the principle of consultation, I was stubborn, I said, Mugs de Thomas principle of consultation. And I was trying to say, thou shalt never consult from below. You want to know about, say, medicine, look for someone who has done medicine to tell you about medicine. And we are usually superior in different fields. I might be superior in medicine, but you are superior perhaps in economics. So as far as economics is concerned, you are a higher being than me. And we shall see, Thomas Aquinas tells us about the hierarchy of being. Even Aristotle speaks something about the hierarchy of being. In our different hierarchies, we are different, unique, and so we must run to He that has the ultimate, the absolute truth. And at the end of the day, we shall see that that contains maximum truth is in God Himself, and God is truth, actually. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue to look at, Aristotle speaks about the teleology of being, that reality is teleological. Telos means the purposeful end. That everything that is seems to be targeted towards a certain end. And that end, St. Thomas will speak the different and say, it is God Himself, the summum bonum, the highest good. Actually, friends, let me not go so much into details because I'm just giving, a rush through the periods of philosophy. But in Aristotle, you hear notions, key concepts like hieromorphism, where matter and form is being, inseparably, united. in entity, matter, and form. He is going to tell us about potentiality and actuality. That the potence is the ability of something to change into another format, but then actuality is the realization of the form itself. I give an example. For example, my sister here, Sarah, I can say Sarah, being a lady, a female, is a potential mother. But in actuality, she's not. But I will say, Jennifer has 3 children, she's an actual mother. So that's what which is out about potentiality and actualities of things. Ladies and gentlemen, Aristotle speaks of this. This is very important. That veritas est in rebus ipsis. What is he trying to say? That the reality of things is in things themselves. Veritas est in rebus ipsis. That the truth of things is in things themselves. So go to the thing to which you want to know the truth about it. Friends, I want to also speak about this. That substance, by definition, which is an important concept in the philosophy of Aristotle, is that the inherent properties and the essence of things that remains even when other accidents have gone off. That makes you, that even after you have moved your clothes, you've moved it, they say, this is Sarah, this is Thomas, this is James, this is one. Friends, let me speak about hieromorphism, which is just the relationship between matter and form. The dynis, the morphe, and the hyle. Great. Now, let's look at the medieval philosophy. That is, we are finished the ancient philosophy, now we're going to the medieval philosophy. The medieval philosophy, we are looking at the philosophy between the 5th century to the 15th century, in the period after Christ, when Christ has been. And then we are looking at thinkers like Augustine, the Hippo, or of Hippo, and this is a great man. He speaks about he writes about confessions, writes about the city of God, and that there is a lot of sense within. But he tries to preach and write, man, speak about the faith and reason. And this will later on become an inspiration that makes our friend and the saint of the modern time, the Pope John Paul II, who writes his encyclical, or the Pope writing, which we call the Fides et Ratio, or Christian and philosophy, or faith and reason, as the way you want to call it. But this Augustine speaks about faith seeking understanding. You want to bring in your faith, but you want to understand that you believe, not just believing for the sake of believing. And Augustine will speak about reason. We speak about the role of sense perception in our conception of things, or perception or understanding. And then we speak about the divine illumination. If you wish, by your commentaries, I can give much more enlightenment or details about these different philosophers and their notions. But then we can also look at Thomas Aquinas. Actually, by the way, Thomas Aquinas is my patron saint, and Thomas Aquinas is a man we call the philosopher, the priest and doctor of the Catholic Church. Actually, because of the African nature of naming, I wanted to know what's the origin of my name, Thomas. Why was I called Thomas by my parents? And I learned that, it was because of Thomas Mishanga, the founder of my parish, Kenyana parish. And then later on, I found that there was a Thomas Aquinas who was the priest and doctor of the church. And so I loved medicine because of that. And later on, I found myself into the studies towards religious life, or what happened. Don't ask me. But what I'm trying to say is that along the way, I found that this is the angelic doctor, the doctor that really wants to see things into philosophizing things and bring out the faith, making the faith be understood. Actually, Thomas Aquinas speaks about many things, but of importance, Thomas Aquinas will write many works also, but this is the man who brings the thoughts of Aristotle into Christianity. And I think most of the doctrines in the Catholic Church are really hinged or pivoted upon the doctrines or the teachings of the philosophies of Thomas Aquinas. Now, Thomas Aquinas, as I said, he brings about the quinque viae, the 5 ways in the justification of the existence of God, maybe. And this quinque viae, or the 5 ways, he speaks many things. Number one of those ways, I don't have to go much into details, but he believes that there is the unmoved mover. You move. Everything that is has been moved by something into motion, but you cannot go into the chain of, infinity of those movers, and says, most likely, there is that which is unmoved mover. And for him, he says, you and everyone ought to think that is God. This is what he says. Remember, this is a priest and doctor of the church, so his thoughts may incline into religiosity or taking God to be the absolute. Number 2, in the quinque viae, he speaks of the uncaused cause. That everything that is has been caused by something before it, preceding it. But then you cannot go to the chain of, causing, going to infinity. And since you cannot go ad infinitum, then we shall say that uncaused cause for me, he says everyone knows this, it is God. It is obvious. And number 3, the necessary being. He says everything that is on this planet seems contingent. Things come to be and things cease to be. So for him, he says, now just look at your own life. Maybe you're 10 years or 20 years, whatever age you have. Do you think the people you were born seeing, they are still existing? No. There is a grandchild who died. There is a tree which is no longer there. There is a mountain which is no longer there. Today, human beings are really activating and doing whatever they are trying to explore and discover. Now, for him, he says, there must be an intelligent being that brings all these things into being. And for him, he says that there's need of a necessary being, since everything seems contingent. Good. And number 4, he speaks about the argument from degree. There are different things that are, you just go to solo, just go to cover, you see how the nature of mountains, the way they are. You feel these are natural, natural things, natural beings. But at some point you said they seem to have some degree of perfection somewhere. Now, when you look at all that, you must read somewhere and say, oh, Deus created, oh, God created. What did he create? So God becomes the maximum degree of that perfection. And when he says, that's an argument from the degree of, perfection. And then we also have the fifth quick here, way of the 5 ways in the justification of the existence of God, and he speaks about the teleological argument. What's the teleological argument? That everything, even stones, even bricks, whatever you see in the nature, seems to be focused towards a certain end. Now, that purposeful orientation towards a certain end, which we call the telos, is what he calls the argument from the teleological cause. Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, I come to the end of the medieval philosophy or philosophers. We have looked at St. Augustine, the Hippo. We have looked at Thomas Aquinas. Let me come to the end of this second piece, and then we'll usher you in, and we'll come into the third part of my thoughts about the periods of philosophy in our thinking arena. You're most welcome, and I mean Thomas Mujisha. You're welcome again. Come to the third part.